We have all seen the video.
Want to do, we want to bring a title back to DC.
Well, Bryce Harper, you got your wish. Because the Nationals finally got over the hump this year and beat the odds. After losing their franchise star during the offseason to their in-division rival, after starting out the season 19-31 on May 24th, after being down 3-1 going into the 8th inning versus the Brewers in a winner-take-all wildcard game, after being down 2-1 versus the Dodgers in the series, and then in the Game 5 coming back again in the 8th inning after being down 3-1, and after being down 3-2 in the World Series and coming back and winning the final 2 games on the road and being down 2-0 going into the 7th inning of the 7th game, the Washington Nationals were able to overcome everything that came their way throughout the season and did not let anything get in their way of winning a World Series championship. The Washington Nationals franchise has been filled with failure, and they were never able to overcome this in the past. Before they were even the Washington Nationals, they were the Montreal Expos from 1969 to 2004. The Expos made the playoffs literally one freaking time, they had a terrible owner, and basically, they freaking sucked. Like, nobody showed up to their games, so the MLB moved them to Washington, D.C., and became the first team to ever have a brand represent their logo. So Washington had a baseball team, and now they were a city with 4 professional sports teams. They had to begin playing at RFK Stadium, which sucked because the Expos left a shitty stadium for another shitty stadium. But you know what? People were excited to watch them play, and Washington was full of National fans in Baltimore Orioles country. They weren't very good throughout their first couple years, and they never made the playoffs until 2012. And in that time frame, they drafted Ryan Zimmerman with their first pick in the 2005 draft. The team was purchased by Ted Lerner and his family from the MLB, who had been running the Nats from 2002 through 2006. Current president of baseball operations and team general manager Mike Rizzo was brought in during 2007. But the Nats didn't really do much for their first 7 seasons. But 2012 was when it all changed, because the team brought in Bryce Harper, who they had drafted first overall. Bryce Harper is public enemy number 1 of this video, or, well, he might be the greatest thing to ever happen to the Nationals. Bryce was a childhood phenom. He was a stereotypical baseball player that everyone can imagine, and he was promoted to the Nationals in April 2012. And when he got to the Nationals, they had a lot of success. They had their starting pitcher Steven Strasburg, who they drafted in 2009, come in during 2010, and had dealt with injuries in 2011, and he was ready to star as well. They drafted really well, they had a good farm system growing, and they finally made the playoffs in 2012 and were a contender from then on. But from 2012 until this year, they made the playoffs 4 times and lost in the NLDS every single time and never won a series. During that time period, they rotated through managers, they brought in baseball's best pitcher in free agency at Max Scherzer during 2015, and they had a pretty good roster growing. But like I said, last year the big story was Bryce Harper's contract. Harper and the Nationals wanted to come to an agreement, and they even offered him roughly $300 million for 10 years, which is around $5 million more than he got from the Phillies. But the funny thing was losing Bryce Harper was honestly the best thing to ever happen to the Nationals. Harper left on March 2nd of 2019 and signed a 13-year, $330 million contract with the Philadelphia Phillies, the Nationals' divisional rival. Now, how exactly could Bryce Harper leaving this team be the greatest thing to ever happen to them? Well, they spent their money the right way, and how you win during the postseason: a good pitching staff. Having Steven Strasburg and Max Scherzer, 2 of baseball's best pitchers, was great for the Nationals for the time being. But they needed just another ace to get them to the next level. And they went out and got that ace when they signed Arizona Diamondbacks pitcher Patrick Corbin to a 6-year, $140 million deal. They also signed pitcher Anibal Sanchez to a 2-year, $19 million deal, and his signing came up extremely clutch for the team during the postseason. For the batters on the team, they were led by star third baseman Anthony Rendon, who had a career year with 34 home runs and a .319 batting average. Shortstop Trey Turner hit .298 with 19 home runs and finished second in the NL with 35 stolen bases. And young 21-year-old phenom Juan Soto made a name for himself this year, and was one of the youngest players in the major leagues last year, and while this year he batted .282 with 110 runs and had 108 walks with 34 home runs and 110 RBIs. But with how nice this all looks, the Nationals season did not start out like it may have seemed. Second-year manager Dave Martinez said no matter how you start, the objective is to get to the postseason, and the Nationals had no easy route to get there. May 24th was a low point for this team, and all the buzz was lost for them. They started out their first 50 games with a 19-31 record, and that was the second worst record in the NL. The team dealt with a lot of injuries to their best players, but the Nationals turned it around and the team went 74-38 to finish the season, and they had a .661 winning percentage and clinched a playoff spot on September 29th. The Nationals became the first major league club in 105 years to go from 12 games under 500 to 24 games over 500. But to win in the playoffs, Dave Martinez and Mike Rizzo also found a way to overcome the league's worst bullpen. They might have had some pretty nasty pitching to start out a game, but when they left, their bullpen never came up clutch for them. But during the postseason, they finally did come up clutch. But despite being a starter, Patrick Corbin came in during the postseason and clutched up. So not only was the money that he got valuable for being a starting pitcher, but his relief pitching filled another need. Also in 2017, the Nationals got Sean Doolittle from the Athletics, and his play during the postseason was exactly what you want for your reliever, and he led the NL in games finished. Also, Daniel Hudson came in, and he deserves a lot of credit, and he got the closeout to win the World Series for them. And you want to know how the Nationals won the World Series? It's because their bullpen did not blow a lead in the 7th inning or later the entire postseason. Now, it's also because they had their starters come in late a bunch to clutch up for them, but the numbers don't lie, and they didn't screw it up in October. But during their playoff run, they had to beat the Brewers in the wildcard game, and had to come back in the game after being down 3-1 the 8th, and then they came back and won the game 4-3. And in the next round, they had to face the Dodgers, who were the past 2 World Series runner-up, and they looked again like they were going to reach the World Series. But the Nationals kept fighting back because they lost Game 1 and Game 3, and during the winner-take-all Game 5, the Nationals went down 3-0 in the game and slowly crept back into this game, and Howie Kendrick hit a grand slam to put them past the Dodgers in extra innings. And in the NLCS, the Nationals beat the Cardinals in a quick sweep, and they proved that they were for real. But their next challenge was versus the Houston Astros, who are considered the most complete team we've seen in modern-day baseball. The Nationals went out and won the first 2 games in Houston, but the Astros did their thing and won the next 3 games in Washington. So up 3-2 in the series, the Astros went back home, and everything pointed to them winning this series. But the resilient Nats won Game 6, and then in Game 7, after going down 2-0 entering the 7th, the Nationals clutched up just once again and got the lead, and went on to win this game and the World Series. They also won every single road game in the World Series to win the title, and this team defied every logic that goes into picking a team. The Nationals might have been Harperless, but the outcome was for sure Bryceless. So with that, the Washington Nationals overcame their past failures and squashed them all this postseason. Their batters came up clutch for them every single time when they absolutely needed them. They didn't screw up late in games and really came up clutch whether it was the hitting or the pitching and the fielding. And the Nationals are your World Series champion. Make sure you guys go tweet at me right now on Twitter to stay more engaged. And I'm working on some videos right now that you will really enjoy. So thank you for watching, everyone, and stay tuned for those.